Parents don't have rights, not parents' rights. Kids have rights.
One of your alters not being trans while the rest of them are, that doesn't invalidate anyone's gender.
And queerbaiting, in my opinion, is unnecessary and totally avoidable.
All right, up next, it's everybody's favorite part of the podcast, where I react to insane LGBT-related TikToks. Up first, this one is quite a doozy.
Every single alter is an individual person. It's not all extensions of the self, all extensions of the host type thing. We are all individual people. We just happen to share a body. So one of your alters not being trans while the rest of them are, that doesn't invalidate anyone's gender. Doesn't invalidate your trans alters. If one alter isn't trans, it doesn't invalidate your cisgender alter if your other alters are transgender. Because gender isn't a set in stone biological thing. Gender is a perception, and every single person has their own identity and their own perception of gender. So it stands to reason that not all of your alters are going to have the same gender, and that even if the majority of your alters are trans, not all of them will be. So I would say that in regards to any physical transitions, such as HRT, surgeries, name changes, anything like that, talk to all of your alters and essentially put it to a vote, get a general consensus from everyone. And there are ways to accommodate alters of every gender in regards to surgeries and HRT and stuff like that. So a lot of us are masculine, but a lot of us are feminine. So we have a very large chest. We are gifted in that department, supposedly, according to some. So even though a lot of us want our body to get full top surgery, a double mastectomy, no more boobs, we would only likely get a breast reduction, so that way when masculine alters are fronting, we can wear a binder, but when feminine alters are fronting, they can wear a push-up bra, and everyone's happy. So there are ways to accommodate, and there is a way to have that sort of happy medium. But the ultimate thing to keep in mind with this is even if one of your alters is, in your words, detransitioning, that does not invalidate your gender, and that does not invalidate anyone else's gender.
So, wow. This person seems to be claiming to experiencing something called dissociative identity disorder, or DID, which is an extremely rare mental health condition where a person feels as if there are multiple people trapped inside one body. They have different alters, which are the people that are inside them, and one is fronting at each time, meaning it's the one actively experiencing the world and making the decisions. I recently watched the show The Crowded Room with Tom Holland, and it explores this disorder, and it's really interesting. It's incredibly rare, though, yet tons of people are suddenly claiming to have it on TikTok, which many are probably faking. Some have been exposed as faking, or others are just confused. But this video discusses the intersection of trans issues with mental health conditions, one of the most extreme being DID. And let me just say that this person is clearly experiencing tremendous mental distress, so I don't want anyone to send them any negativity or any hate. We should all just be wishing them well. That said, millions of young people have been exposed to this type of content, pushing DID and pushing how it intersects with gender ideology in different ways, and I find that deeply concerning. The idea that somebody would ever be medically transitioned while experiencing such profound mental and emotional instability is just insane to me. How can you possibly make a life-altering, potentially, decision to alter your body, to have surgeries or go on hormones that make irreversible changes when you're in such a unstable place? I don't know, man, but no sane doctor should ever provide this kind of care to somebody experiencing this when parts of the people that are inside them supposedly aren't even trans, but just one or some of them are. Yet, under the affirming care model advocated by many progressive trans activists, you've just got to accept whatever a person says their gender identity is if you're a healthcare provider. You can't scrutinize it or try to resolve it through other means. They would call that conversion therapy. You've just got to take the patient's word as gospel and accept and affirm their identity. And I guess this would be the logical conclusion of that approach, which is just bonkers to me. I don't know how else to put it. It's nuts. But frankly, I feel like we'd be failing young people by just accepting their disconnections with reality blindly and then failing to really inform them about the risks and potential consequences of medically transitioning your body. I'm wishing this person all the best. I hope that they find happiness and peace with whatever they do, but I'm really concerned about the intersection of these two areas and how it's spreading like wildfire in some pockets of the internet. Up next, this woke TikToker says parental rights aren't a thing.
This infectious idea that's taking over of this idea of parents' rights, that parents have a right to know. They have a right to know if their child is going by a different name or using different pronouns in school. And the thing that keeps hitting me about this is that parents don't have rights, not parents' rights. Kids have rights. Individuals have rights.
So this person is from Canada, but we actually are seeing the same issue crop up here. And in the US, we do have legally recognized parents' rights. And I absolutely do believe parents should be kept informed of what's going on with their kids at school. We would inform parents if the kid stubbed their toe and got a Band-Aid in the nurse's office. Yet some people are actually arguing that a kid could transition or announce different pronouns, and they just keep that a secret from the parents. Society gives parents a really tremendous duty to ensure for their kids' well-being. And I don't see how they could possibly really live up to that duty if they don't even know what's going on with their kid. How can they do what's best for their kid if they don't know what's going on with their kid? Especially when something like changing pronouns is indicative potentially of gender dysphoria, which is a serious medical condition that they need to be able to get their kid care for and get their kid analyzed. And I don't see how they can do any of that if they don't even know what's going on. It's just ludicrous. Kids do not belong to the government. And schools should not, maybe with very rare exceptions, be keeping secrets from parents. When secrets are kept from parents between a child and a third party, that's often a red flag, and it creates a kind of gray, dangerous zone where sometimes bad things happen as a result. Because parents are the ultimate watchdog for their kids' safety, so while some people trying to do this probably have good intentions, others, when they do seek to keep secrets from parents between them and a child, are doing it because they have nefarious intentions. I do have to acknowledge one thing, though, where I disagree with some Republicans and conservatives and their laws and policy proposals on this. I think any policy or rule or law addressing this, mandating disclosure, it needs to have some sort of exception or carve-out for situations where there's credible reason to believe, or the student really credibly does believe, that informing their parents of this will put them in physical danger. You'd think it wouldn't be the case in 2023, but unfortunately it still is in some places and some pockets where there are probably still some families out there where a kid would face physical violence or being disowned or being kicked out because they were exposed to their parents as having identified as transgender or announcing different pronouns. In those cases, it would be really wrong for the schools to inform the parents. But again, maybe the kid would just say that. So what I think you'd have to have is some sort of exception where child services are brought in, and if they're really making this allegation, they'd be physically unsafe, it's investigated, and if it's found to be untrue, then the parents are informed. But if it is true, then the parents do not need to be informed. And clearly, there's a broader picture with child services that would need to be resolved there. So I don't think you can just have a 100% in every case, parents must disclose policy. But I think in almost every case, parents should 100% be kept in the loop with what's going on with their kids. Up next, one woke TikToker with millions of followers was very upset, very unhappy with the new movie Red, White, and Royal Blue because the actors playing the two gay main characters happen to be heterosexual. Let's take a listen to this very serious, not at all first world problems complaint.
Don't you just love when they cast 2 straight actors to play 2 gay characters when there's a ton of gay actors out there that are looking for roles but are told there's no roles for them? And for anyone saying that this is not that big of a deal and they don't owe us anything about their sexuality, queer kids are literally being forced out of the closet, and there is a record number of anti-LGBTQ legislation happening in this country right now. So it is kind of a big deal. And queer baiting, in my opinion, is unnecessary and totally avoidable, which is what this movie is doing. Because these actors are afforded the privilege to say that they don't like to talk about their personal lives so that they get to use this queer moment. Because as Samantha Jones says in Sex and the City, first come the gays, then come the girls, then come everybody else. Hollywood has no problem shutting the door over on queer movies, queer characters, queer anything, but has no problem taking 2 straight cute boys and using them to sell a gay movie. Make it make sense.
This is so dumb. Guess what? The actor isn't a member of the royal family either, although that's what he is in the movie, because it's acting. I mean, this woke, identity-obsessed worldview, it would literally destroy acting as we know it. If people can only literally play the things they actually are in real life, then that defeats the entire purpose of acting, which fundamentally is about pretending to be something you aren't. I mean, also, do people like this want gay actors to only be able to play gay characters? Do they want them to be typecast and limited and only put in that one box? Because that's the logical conclusion of what they're advocating for. Yet that would have done tremendous harm to gay actors like Neil Patrick Harris, who is gay but played Barney and many other straight characters on hits like How I Met Your Mother and had a very successful acting career doing just that. That would be apparently offensive or straight baiting or whatever this guy finds offensive about the other situation. Well, you gotta be consistent. I personally think that all actors should be able to act and pretend to be things they aren't. You know, because that's literally what actors do. And while we're at it, I also think TikTokers with millions of followers should stop getting outraged and posting this kind of dumb nonsense about minor frivolous things and maybe focus on some real problems. Up next, we've got another TikTok narcissist, folks.
2 things to know. I'm non-binary, I go by they, them, and I work in a store that is pretty much all women. So whenever they're like addressing us or when they're talking, they're always like, hey ladies. So I've taken it upon myself as someone that is non-binary to use this to not listen. And whenever anyone addresses a group as ladies, I am not included. So when they say, hey ladies, let's like stop talking, or hey ladies, let's like get to work, I will do none of it because you're not talking to me. You're not talking to me. You're not talking to me. So I will not listen to anything that is said when it is started with, hey ladies. I'm a theydy, not a lady. A theydy.
Oh my gosh. Theydy isn't a word. It's never going to be a word. Nobody's ever going to call you that. And like, is this not the most first world problems thing you've ever heard about? Oh my gosh. I just can't imagine. I just cannot relate to being this emotionally fragile and relying on external validation in every verbal tick for my own sense of self to not implode in real time. Guess what? People say, hey guys, when they're not talking about all guys. They say, hey ladies, when they're talking to a bunch of ladies, which, I'm sorry, you are a lady. I mean, but it doesn't even sound like when they're speaking to you individually, they're not using your pronouns or anything. It sounds like you're just literally expecting them to adopt their language to accommodate you for no apparent reason. And honestly, you sound like a terrible employee who's openly admitting to not focusing on their work or doing their job and not listening to the things your bosses say. So I am not wishing for this, but I would find it kind of ironic if your bosses saw this TikTok and fired your ass. Part of this really does come back to just like being unpleasant to be around, like just imposing yourself on others and being annoying and demanding. And I just think that these folks are not really setting the stage for their own acceptance when they take this kind of approach. That's just, it comes off very obnoxious and demanding of others and kind of like no one ever wants to be around or work with that person where you constantly feel like you're walking on eggshells and you're making yourself that person and you really don't need to be that person. Just identify however you identify, ask people politely, and you know what? Don't make a scene or don't sabotage your workplace because minor word choice isn't exactly in line with how you'd like it to be, that's not setting you up for success in life or happiness. Because frankly, if you want to be happy, I think you need to get to a place where you're confident in yourself and you don't need the minor verbal affirmations from random people all the time. Also, stop posting on TikTok. No, you don't have to. Just stop. All right, for this last one, this alpha male influencer has interesting thoughts about the gays. Take a listen.
People ask me all the time, Alpha King Nima, how could I get respect? And I tell them, bravery. I once had an employee open up to our entire team in the office that he was gay. Well, our entire team respected him for it. I still fired him though, because I was worried that it would be contagious. And I didn't want it to infect the rest of our team. So I still have a lot of respect for him. Alpha King rule number 11. Respect equals bravery and vice versa.
Hold up. Does this guy really unironically refer to himself as Alpha King? This is a video from self-described Alpha King influencer Nima Yamini. And look, I just find it crazy how deeply uncomfortable some of these alpha male red pill types are with the fact that some dudes are gay. Like, trust me, sweetie, the gay guys, they're not looking at you. You're not their type. There's really no need for you to be uncomfortable around them, let alone discriminatory and firing people because of who they are. Also, depending on what state this happened in and when it happened, my man's here may have just confessed to a crime. It's been illegal in some states to fire someone because they are gay for some time now, and it actually somewhat recently became illegal nationwide. So depending on where and when he did this, homeboy's on tape admitting to a criminal act or to an act that violates civil law at least. I do feel like I've gotten a little off track here. Being gay is not contagious. It's not COVID. It's not Miss Rona. So many straight men have spent time around gay people, worked with gay people, and they don't suddenly find themselves checking out other dudes' butts. If you're straight and you're around a gay dude and you find yourself suddenly taking a look at his ass in those jeans or whatever, it's not that the gayness is contagious. It's that your straightness was never all that straight to begin with. And I can't help but think that maybe that's where a lot of this insane insecurity from some of these alpha male red pill types is really coming from. All right, guys, that's it for the crazy TikTok content. And that's it for this episode of the Damage Control podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please drop a like, comment, let me know your thoughts, consider subscribing. This channel's growing really fast, and I cannot wait to have more of you join us over here. By the way, if you want to support the show, sometimes it gets demonetized by YouTube. So what you can do is you can drop a comment with super thanks of $5 or more. It'd be greatly appreciated. And I'll even read your comment on next week's show. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all next week.